All right, y'all. Make It Plain Plus, a little Make It Plain after the show. Joining us here at SiriusXM, and we welcome her warmly here to our studios. From everybody knows about the Apollo Theater. Matter of fact, everybody knows about the Met Gala, but this is the Apollo Gala.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And that's a big deal, too.
It's a very big deal.
Kamilah Forbes, who is the executive producer.
That's right.
At the Apollo Theater. So
Right.
she's involved in she is the creative direction for today's Apollo Theater. How
That's
are you?
great.
Welcome to
I'm
SiriusXM.
very thankful to be here. Thank you so much.
We're glad to have you. So tell us
Yeah.
all about the gala.
Well, I love that you opened it up with the Met Gala and then the Apollo Gala.
That's right. That's
because
right.
it's definitely an Apollo-esque, right? This is our biggest fundraiser of the year.
Okay.
It happens every single year. It's one of the biggest parties in New York City, I'd like to say.
Mm-hmm.
And celebrating not only the legacy of the Apollo, but also really this event supports our current programming, right? As you know, we are a 501c3 nonprofit and have been for the last 10 years, and have been doing really dynamic programming to push the culture forward.
Yeah.
This season is a reflection of that, as well as our robust and vast education programs as well.
Tell us a bit about the education programs. People may not
Absolutely.
know about that. They know about Showtime at the Apollo. But
They
tell
know about
us-
Showtime. That's right.
Yeah.
So, our education program has, again, been in existence over 10 years. We have several different components. In-school programming, we're in over 45 different schools with teaching artists, promoting the curriculum and the history and the legacy of not only the Apollo Theater, but African-American performance art culture, right? Alongside that, we have what's called the Apollo Theater Academy, which we train young people, juniors and seniors in high school who apply to our program to learn about the performing arts and also production, right? So behind the scenes, how do you create the magic? How do you become the producers and the directors and the lighting designers and the sound designers, right? That helps to
It's
create
important.
the magic, because there's so many programs that train you how to dance and how to sing and to be in front of the camera, but our program is really focused on the behind the scenes, right? Those creators and producers. And so that's our Apollo Theater Academy that also runs year round, as well as another piece of our education program is adult programming. We have a series called Live Wire, in which we have really robust conversations with legends like, Dionne Warwick and Melba Moore sharing their stories. We also had a Live Wire earlier this year talking about the history of Black music, particularly Black music that was connected to the civil rights movement, right? Because that was connected to a big part of our main stage programming this year, a piece called Soundtrack 63. So our education program did a wonderful job of curating this panel discussion as a part of our Live Wire series.
How old is the Apollo Theater now?
Apollo Theater's 84 years old.
84 years
That's
old.
right. January will be 85.
And, it's interesting, in a handful of Black communities, there were theaters that were connected to that community, and few of them are even still around.
Yeah.
But the Apollo has survived and remained.
That's
hasn't it?
right. Yeah. Part of the that was our circuit, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What they used to call the Chitlin circuit.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm trying to think who didn't appear at the Apollo. I mean, I
you know-
can't think of anybody who actually did not appear there.
It's really hard to find because when
Yeah.
we talk about who we celebrate as our Apollo legends, everyone falls under that
Yeah,
category.
yeah.
I mean, there's it's hard pressed, and even up to today, we still have artists who absolutely want to be on our stages.
Yeah.
Because it's the Apollo, and there's something about that allure and that mystique to touch the stage, to be a part of history.
And I know SiriusXM has been involved in bringing artists to the Apollo who never came.
Yeah.
So I was there a few years ago when Paul McCartney
That's
came.
right.
And he said on stage,
Yeah.
when the Beatles were alive, they always wanted to play the Apollo,
Yeah.
but they never got the opportunity to do
Right.
that.
Right.
I also saw Mr. Worldwide, Pitbull there.
Yeah.
And, I was kind of, honestly, Kamilah, a little ambivalent about him. He was
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then when I went, and I mean, Apollo literally
Yeah.
levitated. People were.
Right.
It was
right.
like a Vegas
Right,
spectacular
right,
in the
right.
Apollo.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
it's obviously an important place for a lot of people to be,
That's
not
right.
only for the history, but it's always been a great, great venue. We should let the audience know a little about you also. Is it accurate to say that you coined the term hip-hop theater?
You know what? Is it accurate to say no? It was coined before me.
Okay.
But I'll take that.
Okay.
I had first heard it in 1995 by an artist by the name of John Z.D.
Okay.
But I did found the Hip Hop Theater Festival here in New York,
Mm-hmm.
which was one of the first producing entities producing hip hop theater. And, it's funny, in our third festival, we had In the Heights, Lin-Manuel Miranda. He actually had to pull out of our festival because he got picked up by a Broadway producer. That was
Wow.
his first Broadway musical, and he was just coming out of grad school. But yeah, we were the first producing entity solely around hip hop theater, for sure.
And the Hip Hop Theater Festival, it's not only in New York now, right? It's spread out
It is
around the
spread out
country.
around the country. New York, D.C. We had festivals in Chicago and San
You
Francisco.
still involved in that?
I'm not. No, the Apollo has taken over my life.
Yeah. So
but a big supporter still.
Yeah. So you brought that baby to fruition and
That's
then
right.
passed along, and
That's right.
and that's important. Is it sort of your vision to bring more hip hop theatrical productions to the Apollo?
A big part of my vision, I think, is about making sure that what happens on the stages is reflective of not only the full breadth of the community, and part of that also being generational.
Right.
So, a big part of my vision is definitely about bringing that generational voice to the fore, right? So, for instance, we opened this season with a work that, although it was directed by Bill T. Jones, the writer was Mark Bamuti Joseph, who's a big spoken word artist and performance artist sort of in that genre, right? I also had him when I produced Def Poetry Jam. Like, he was a big figure in that world as well. So this idea of, hip hop merging, right? We also most recently this past season had Lauryn Hill.
Right.
We had Lettucey. And we also had a piece that I developed and adapted by Ta-Nehisi Coates called Between the World and Me, that also featured several hip hop artists. Black Thought and Common were some of our special guests.
So speaking of Broadway and even being downtown here, do you consider the Apollo competing with or complementing or supplementing what goes on downtown here, or what they call the Great White Way?
That's right. I think the Apollo is its own thing.
Okay.
A lot of people think it's like, oh, well, why don't you build a show to the Apollo to go to Broadway? And for me, I don't think that is not the aspiration, right? The aspiration is to build a institution that is reputable and stands on its own ground as an African American institution for performing arts, right? In our community that we own, that we're driving the messaging behind and building the programming behind, and that's the mission. And Broadway is a very different thing, right? It's art as commerce. And what we're trying to build is culture.
Yeah, that is a big difference.
Yeah.
It's a very, very big difference. Are you finding support for the Apollo ever growing, audiences growing, people coming back home?
Definitely.
Tell us about that, if you will.
It's been so interesting because the Apollo, we're almost at another renaissance, if you will, right? Because it was always known as sort of this musical roadhouse where people cut their teeth and they found their home, and now we're at a point where, as after we become this sort of nonprofit institution, we're building works to define the next generation or the next canon, right? Of I think of performing arts, right? Of music arts, of popular music culture, and so there's been this whole new generation, I think, of artists who are clamoring to be a part of that movement, right? And to be a part of the home that is Apollo.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
Apollo also has become a place where we've, it's interesting. Whenever some of our great icons pass away, we gather at the Apollo.
That's right.
Right out in front, even if it's late at night. I remember when Prince passed, I was out there 11 o'clock at night. And one of the most beautiful displays of tributes to Prince around the country was right there in front of the Apollo. And so it really is a sacred space.
It is. Which is why it's hard to compare it to any other building and or institution and or Broadway house or off Broadway house here in New York City, because that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen at the Helen Hayes Theater. It doesn't happen at the Signature.
No.
Right? It doesn't happen at the Beacon or MSG. But it happens at the Apollo, right? Because it is sacred space. It's sacred space not only in our community as a Black community, but also in the American community, right? And as our identity, right? As part of our identity. So, it's a special place to be.
Amateur night still going on too?
Amateur night every single Wednesday.
Yeah. And there's always a big line of people going there to watch that. That's a tradition that'll never go away. Huh?
It'll never go away. And it surprises me how people just love, but I get it, because there's the dream, right? You see these young performers and the dream and the sparkle that they have in their eye, just hoping that they don't get booed.
And now you just it's hard to even name everyone who made their first name for themselves at amateur night.
That's right.
That was some Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan. I mean, it was just
the list goes on. Lauryn Hill. Dave
is that
Chappelle.
what attracted you to go to the Apollo? Was that what was it? The history,
the legacy, but also the opportunity,
mm-hmm.
opportunity for growth,
mm-hmm.
right? The opportunity to be part of something major.
You mentioned culture as opposed to commerce. I guess when you really think about it, I mean, the Apollo is really the highest peak in terms of our people and our culture, and having an ongoing theater where we put on original performances.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a highest peak as we talk about artistic excellence.
Uh-huh.
And people say, once I've hit the Apollo, I've made it. And we just want to continue that, right? We want to continue that, but even be more of a generative force of creating new works, of being able to also be a landing or a platform for artists we haven't heard of yet, right? Because when Ella was there, no one knew her as Ella.
That's right. That's right.
She wasn't Ella Fitzgerald. She was a 14-year-old dancer who could sing a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That's how she started an amateur night.
Yeah.
So we want to continue that, to be that home, not only where folks like your, Lauryn Hills or Lettuce's come back to break new work or to launch new albums or to take experimentative risk and to build new works of art to contribute to our canon, but also we're those emerging artists who are still honing their craft.
Yeah.
This is that space.
So as executive producer, do you, when you do the original productions that you mentioned, Ta-Nehisi and those types of things, do you bring in creative artists and writers to do that, or are you actually still doing some writing yourself?
So I didn't write it. I conceived and directed it.
Okay.
But I definitely brought on several. I built a creative team. I had two brilliant dramaturgs who helped to adapt the book. I had an amazing composer, Jason Moran, who scored a beautiful score of music. And then we had a brilliant cast. From folks like Angela Bassett to Michelle Wilson. To Jewel Morton.
Fellow Howard alum, correct?
That's right. That's
you do Howard undergrad.
Howard.
Yeah, I would, but at grad school.
Fantastic.
Well, I got my degree from grad school, but I'm actually seriously Howard because I was born in Freedman's Hospital, which is now the School of Sea. Yeah. I was actually born on. My mother was a senior at Howard when she gave birth to me, right there on the campus.
So you're truly a Howard baby.
Yeah. School of Fine Arts.
School of Fine Arts.
All right. What? How did Howard prepare you to be at the Apollo?
I think. The beautiful thing about Howard is that it gives you a sense of self, particularly, around African American identity. And I needed that. And that was important for me to understand who I was from that vantage point. Right.
Okay.
And not being that part of me being an exception, but just the given. And so I think for me, then now coming to the Apollo, having that sort of pride and that sort of fortitude instilled in me, I think that Howard provided, just provides a launching pad of that. Oh, wow. Because at Howard, you're taught that you can do anything. In the world, and you can change the world, right? Because you're walking in the footsteps of Toni Morrisons and Thurgood Marshalls. So it's that feeling that I think, and then you walk into an institution with the legacy like the Apollo. You feel like Superman. In a way. So I think Howard definitely prepared me in that way to kind of embrace legacy, embrace history, embrace culture, but also with a forward motion.
When you were at Howard, did you always know that it would be writing or producing, directing for you, or did you do any acting too?
I did.
Okay.
I did. So at Howard, I was doing acting and directing primarily, and when I came out of Howard, that's primarily what I was doing, and then caught the bug to want to control. I have a little bit of control frequently, control issues. I just gotta.
Folks, that's when you use control issues in a healthy way.
In a healthy way, right? And then really start started to focus a lot more on producing and directing. Yeah.
Speaking of superheroes, you work with Chadwick Boseman.
I do.
What,
Yeah, I
what,
did.
were you all at Howard at the same time?
We were at Howard at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's been something.
He
seeing
is.
what Black Panther is
Oh,
done.
man.
We were looking up some movies the other day. Black Panther's still playing in a lot of theaters.
No kidding.
When Infinity War opened, my son and I were in Florida, and we went to opening night there. We just happened to be in Florida, so let's go to see the movie. And the theater in Orlando had Infinity War opening night and still had Black Panther on another screen. I've never seen a prequel or part of a franchise overlap into the next franchise.
Wow.
You
That
know,
is something.
So I'm sure you're happy for Chadwick.
I mean, super happy for Chadwick, because I think it's an incredible thing. And then, super happy for Ryan Coogler, as a director. And because I think it has not only created other pathways, I think, for the culture, right?
Yeah.
To just grow and flourish, because that's amazing. I think it's Black Panther was historic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's one of those historic
I have an idea.
Okay, tell me.
You know what you all should? We should do, a stage adaptation of Black Panther at the Apollo.
Like the musical. There we go. You heard it here
Black
first,
Panther
folks.
musical.
Sirius
Boom.
XM.
Off the hook.
I
That
love
would
it.
blow up.
Wakanda. Can you imagine that opening
the Apollo
number?
would be packed.
Okay.
You can probably write that up
I
this
could.
weekend.
See, now you
Because
just
you
gave
bad.
me
You
an
just do.
idea.
You try to do that this weekend.
You just
Put
gave
that
me
together.
an idea.
Then we just got to get the money and get all the other production stuff. I know you can write it, right?
Yeah, you know it. Disney's gonna be knocking on the door.
I know, right. Lastly, what has Kamilah Forbes not done yet that you want to get done in terms of your career and your contribution to the culture? Even if it's at the Apollo, what are some of the other things you envision that you really, because that's why this gala is important. You all are raising money, keep the Apollo going.
That's right.
What have you not yet done that you really look forward to? What's the big thing out there on the horizon?
Yeah. For the Apollo, I would say, and for me and the Apollo, I would say, one of the big things is really being able to be an even larger creative force. And what I mean by that is having those original pieces, original, like you're talking about, whether it's Black Panther, the musical, but a whole season full of original works that is we're so growing our season in twofold. Where it not only becomes a legacy institution, but on a consistent basis, year-round basis, that place where you have to be, where if anything is happening in the culture,
that's right.
It's happening at
That's
the
right.
Apollo.
That's right. Sacred space, folks. The Apollo Theater Spring Gala is this coming Monday. So who's going to be there Monday? Who's everybody gonna be there? You got a bunch of Tony, Bell Biv DeVoe, 90 superstars. Salt and Pepper's going to be there.
Salt and Pepper's going to be there.
Wow.
Yes, they are. Absolutely. And we've got an amazing host, David Allen Greer.
Yeah, of course.
So it's going to be a fun night.
Yeah,
it always is.
Well, congratulations on that,
Absolutely.
and keep up all the good work. ApolloTheater.org. Is that the website? Okay.
ApolloTheater.org.
ApolloTheater.org. If people still want to get tickets or make a contribution, they can do that, right?
They absolutely can online.
Does Apollo have membership?
It does.
Okay,
Yeah, we do. And so once you go to our website, you can find out about our insiders, Apollo Insiders.
Yeah. So,
Become a
folks,
member.
please support the Apollo Theater right there in Harlem. And all the great work they do. It's a pleasure to have with us Kamilah Forbes.
Great.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much.
ApolloTheater.org, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.